We have the caliper, caliper bracket, the disc or rotor. Okay. Some of these discs and rotors are held in by screws. These have been removed. Some of them can come right off. Others you will use a bolt here, which then will press it off of the hub. Okay. Now let's go ahead and remove the caliper. We can take a look at brake pads. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these slide pin bolts. One here, here. Okay, not the main bracket one, caliper slide pin. Let's go ahead and remove those. I generally like to break one loose, not remove it all the way, and then remove the loose in the other one. That way it makes it easier, because if you were to remove this one completely, you'll want to drop or move. And then I'm going to go ahead and place all the hardware I take out here on the off. That way they don't get lost. Okay? Okay, now I can remove the caliper. Okay? The first thing you want to do is remove some of the pressure on the hydraulic line. So what you can do is you're going to get a pry bar and pry this open. Or use standard screwdriver. All I'm doing, pressing the piston within the caliper, making this. Now I have it removed. Now I'm going to set it right here. I'll go get my hanger here. I'm going to grab the bracket there. Now the caliper won't fall. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the brake pads and measure them with this is a simple gauge to measure the thickness of the pad. What is nice is you can do this while the caliper is on. But for our requirements in class, we will need to take the caliper off and take the pad. And turn those. Little chance. A little assistance. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things on this pad. It's a semi-metallic pad that is bonded, meaning it's glued on here. Some of them are riveted. This is an anti-chatter pad. Okay? This is where you would put some of the brake grease, make sure that it is for brakes, not anything else. This is a wear indicator right here. What will happen is when this material wears away, this part will then rub against the squeaky noise when that rubs against. So if you start hearing that, that means you need to replace your pads. Let's go ahead and measure the amount of material that is left on this pad using gauges. I'm just going to go ahead, go right here on the side. There we go. That's the one that matches up. That is a measurement of such and such. Okay, so that's this pad. We'll measure this one. The same measurement I left off with. Go. Yep, that's this one. Okay, so that's good. I would write down those measurements. Okay, and the next thing is I need to secure this so it stops flopping. So I'm going to take my lug nuts. Generally, some of the lug nuts don't have the corner cover over here, but this one does. So we're going to thread this down. That will hold the disc or rotor in place. And I'm going to put two of them on. Okay, now I have two of them on. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do lateral runout. Lateral runout is warpage in this rotor. Warpage in here caused by heat, and you would feel it in the pedal. If you were to replace the pedal, pressing it down, you would feel a pulsation. Okay, so we're going to check for lateral runout. Very common on front wheel drive vehicles for those that are ride their brakes going downhill. So let's go ahead and take a measurement on that. Okay, to measure lateral runout, you will need a dial indicator. You will need the lockjaw with adapter, as well as the cable lock. Let me explain how this works. Technology. Okay, so on a cable lock, inside this is a cable. Okay, this part right here will use to clamp the dial indicator on, and I'll show you that in a second. This is the part that goes into the adapter on the lockjaw pliers. Here is the lock for the cable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tension the cable. So if I need it bent this way, I will add tension with this thumb screw right here. Okay, and then I'm going to lock the cable, and it will hold that position. Okay, so if I release it, it no longer has movement again. Let me show you now how to put the dial indicator on here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unthread this thumb screw, slide this back so I now have an opening here. A little more. And then on the dial indicator, you will not use this part. You will use this sleeve, not the pin, the sleeve. You will slide the sleeve in through here and secure with the thumb screw. Now it's secure. Okay? We won't put that on until after we've set the cable lock and the lockjaw onto the car. So let's go ahead and do that part now. So I'm going to find somewhere that doesn't move for the lockjaw that can give me a good arch with this. Okay. Generally, I would grab the spindle bolts that are back here. Some cars it's a little higher. I can grab onto this. Okay. Not onto that because that moves. Okay. So I'm going to grab onto here. I want to make sure it's nice and tight so it doesn't wiggle. I'm going to go ahead and thread it on the top of the adapter. All right, and then I'm going to make a graceful arch over to here, right, and then I'll lock it. It didn't lock. See how the little something flopped over. That means I need to add more tension to this thumb screw. Try again. There it goes. It's now held into place and ready to go. Now I will grab that dial indicator. Once again, I'm going to put it on the sleeve. Slide open, pull trap. Then secure it. Fall. Now I'm going to depress the dial indicator so that the plunger is about halfway. You can tell here on the top. Down. And I'm also going to make sure that the plunger is in about middle of the disc. Okay. Now I could sit here and try to turn the dial, but as you see, every time I touch it, the needle jumps. Closely. There we go. On 0 in my view. Go. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, this lug nut is near the dial. I'm going to rotate it until it comes right back to this point, and it should be at 0 again. Right? It's not at 0 again. This arm has relaxed its tension. Give it a little wiggle. Throw again. Right? And I'm going to bring that lug nut all the way around again. Okay, so I'm off by 100 thousandths. So I'm going to give it a little tap and reset to 0. I'm just calibrating. Once again, I'm going to bring this around so I know that hits 0 again. There we go. I have completed my calibration tool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this. Watch how far the needle moves. This way, this way. Each one of those lines, gaps, 0.001. Okay? So it's going to go nice and slow. Okay, that's one line, two lines, and we're back to 0. Okay, so it went in 0.002. So that is our lateral run out. Now, let's say if it went 2 this way, 3 this way. What we would do is we would add those together. So if we went 2 this way, and then 3 this way, we would just add those numbers together to get a total lateral run out, which would be 0.005. Okay, so we are now done with lateral run out. We need to do thickness variation. And this is where we needed the caliper off, because this is where we're going to measure it. Because the flash shield or the backing plate here prevents us from getting our calipers on there easily. First thing I'm going to do, remove the dial indicator. Put that back in its box. Then release the tension on the cable and remove it. Put it in the box. And then remove the lockjaw. Okay, now for our last measurement that we need to make, we will use a micrometer. Okay, on this set of micrometers, here it is. This one has a analog reading right there, which will be naked, which will make it nice. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. I'm using the symbol here. As soon as I get it open, go. And now I can thread this in. I'm gonna use this part now. As soon as I hear the clicking, I know that I'm done. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and make a reading, and I'm gonna write down this reading. And I need to make this reading 4 times. And I do it at every lug, right? This one is point. 0.962. Okay. Now I'm going to rotate it again. Then I'm going to slide it on. Once again, using this part. So, okay, this one is 0.961. Move it. One. Okay, this one is 0.959. And my last reading for lug nuts, I will 4 measurements. I will do it whatever number of lug nuts. Okay, and this one is 962 as well. Okay, so I now have all my readings. I just wrote them down on a piece of paper. I'm going to remove the micrometer, and now I'm going to do some math. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the largest number and the smallest number and subtract the two of them. Okay, we're not looking for an average, we're looking for the difference. Okay, so I'm going to write this out in basic math. 962 subtract 959. All right, there's our math problem. Okay, now we'll need to solve it. And we are results with a 0.003, this is in inches, so, of a thickness variation, okay, which kind of matches up with our lateral runout. Now, we would compare that to our specification to know that if we need to replace it. So let's go ahead and now put everything back together. Put everything together, we're going to place the pads on first. And remembering that I had taken photos before I started, that the one with the wear indicator was on the back, and the arch goes towards the hub. Put that in there. And okay, and then this one again. And the bottom one needs a little extra. Okay. And now we can go ahead and remove from the hook. And remove the hook from the vehicle. Then place the caliper on. Sometimes these slide pins, let me show you. Sometimes these slide pins, let me show you which ones I'm talking about right here. Slide out. These are the ones you have. So I'm going to make sure they're pushed in. And then I can go ahead and slide caliper on place. Okay. I'm going to now grab the two bolts that I had right here and place them on. Okay, so now I have my two bolts. I'll go ahead and thread those on. I'm caliper around. Okay. Same thing down here. Do it by hand until they have seated themselves. Okay. Then I'll grab my wrench. I will tighten them down. Oh. I have just now completed the disc brake section of the brake packet. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do the drum brakes and learn those